I'm
We're
back
live.
and ready whenever, bud.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I am one of your hosts, but tonight we are continuing our month of Meet the Cast, where we are continually being tortured by a certain someone in the room. I'm just kidding, but I don't want to be a rebel about it or anything. So why don't we give this over to Brandon, and why don't you tell us a little bit about this movie and why it's so personal to you?
Well, this is a film I grew up with. So we're going to be covering the film Rising Storm, the 1989 film by director Francis Shcaeffer. Actually, hey, I got the pronunciation right. I can pronounce something. Theoretically. This is a film about a dystopian future where I guess you could say the religious right had taken over, and a group of people decide that they will take down the fascist regime with sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah, Billy from friggin' Gremlins attempts to multiply.
So yeah, those dirty hippies are fighting back.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and start here at the we'll start at this side there. So Dave, is this your first time watching Rising Storm, or Rebel Storm as it's known in some circles?
Yes, it is my first time watching the film, and I guess I could take it either way, either political faction, because growing up, I guess Republican, it's always been the other side of the political spectrum that's been shed the light in a negative way. So to me, I could take it either way, whether it be the far left or the far right. I feel the same way about The Purge. So to me, I liked it. It was an interesting mix of, like they took the archaeological aspect of like Raiders of the Lost Ark or Indiana Jones, mixed it with Mad Max and Super Mario Brothers or some shit like that. Dane, on the other hand, said it had a Brazilian vibe to it. If you know the movie Brazil. And I
believe his description. Yeah, I believe his description was Brazil, Mario Brothers, and Mad Max. Which,
and
because
I could definitely see some Surf Nazis Must Die influence in this.
Let me see. Are you finished with yours, Dave? I could read Dane's little summary out real quick.
But I relatively enjoyed this for a first time viewing. So take it away, Brandon. Tell us what Dane thought.
I'll be Dane for this temporary moment. He wanted to join us, but responsibilities and earning money to live tends to come first, and that I have to take my hat out to if I had one on right now. So Rising Storm reminded me of a four-way cross between an 80s trauma film, Brazil, The Road Warrior, and Super Mario Brothers the movie.
Actually, I'll throw in one more. Hell Comes to Frogtown with Rodney Piper.
There is a bit of that.
The movie, the tone is cheesy and satirical, and the satirical elements reach Spaceballs level of spoof sometimes. But it would have been amusing to the generations of MTV loving Reagan opposing people of the late 80s. I'm surprised it's not better known. And that is his piece. And actually, I guess I'll go on to my Well, right again to Mo. Is this your first time seeing this movie?
It definitely is, and I was never aware of this other than I think just seeing it on that dude. I forget his fucking name now. Billy from the Gremlins.
Zach Gallagher.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I saw it on his list of movies because me and you both got the Waxwork collection recently, and it got me thinking, like, Billy never really did that many movies, and so I started looking for other movies he'd done, and that leads you to like Wikipedia and IMDb, and I saw it on there. But that's it. That's my only exposure to it until watching it for this, and I pretty much agree with all of that. It's definitely got that camp element to it. There was a couple of moments I was watching it where it did sort of remind me a little bit of Spaceballs. It's just a fun, wacky, dystopian science fiction sort of religious political parody flick, and it's, I think, keeps it lighthearted enough. It's, regardless of where you fall on it, it's enjoyable. And yeah, I mean, it's, the cast was pretty great. I will say it had some of the best squib action I'd seen in a long time. A lot of shootout.
Yep.
And they were done pretty well. So that was my main takeaway from it this first time watching it, was that stuff.
Awesome. How about you, Jake? This your first time watching it?
This is. I couldn't swear to it when I heard of this. It's not a well-known film, but I feel like I've heard of it over the years, but I know you've mentioned it many times.
I know I've mentioned it to you.
Yes. But this is definitely the first time. Not an easy one to find. And yeah, I was kind of wondering about what the people involved had done. Obviously, I know John Rhys Davies. I guess he adds a little bit of that Raiders vibe a little bit because, that's, he's in that. And of course, as we mentioned in the other video, June Chadwick is a alum of Spinal Tap, but most of these not terribly well-known people. I enjoyed it, and I kind of agree with everything that's been thrown out. Although one thing that I find surprised that no one has mentioned, the one that really came to mind to me, other than probably Mad Max, and once Dane got me thinking about Mario Brothers and the works of Terry Gilliam, yeah, I can see that. The one that really came to mind for me, particularly the character of Joe Gage, who's played by Wayne Crawford, reminded me a lot of Michael Gross's character, Burt Gummer, in Tremors. And this really, to me, had a lot of a Tremors vibe to it.
He does.
It actually almost
that
looks like a
thing going
Tremors.
on.
Yeah.
Even the poster looks kind of Tremors-like, if you think about it.
Right. So I was kind of surprised no one mentioned that, but and just like Tremors, I found it quite enjoyable. It's probably a little sillier, a little bit, which is kind of a weird thing to say, I suppose, but the acting's a little more over the top. The effects aren't quite as, it's kind of like a B-roll Tremors in some ways, but it's a fun movie. I do enjoy it. I had a very strong reaction to the autocratic leader of the regime, which I'll talk about when we get into characters. But because when it hit me, who the guy reminded me of, it hit me with like a ton of bricks. But overall, it was a fun movie. I enjoyed it.
What about you, Forrest? Was this your first time checking it out?
Yeah, and this is one that I'm like, how did this movie fall under my radar? Because there's so much about this that's just so up my alley. The whole post-apocalyptic dystopian setting. There's also it's very kind of very quirk, but for a dystopian sci-fi post-apocalyptic dystopian sci-fi flick. It's it's got a very offbeat tone to it. There's some sort of like quirk to it. But yeah, I definitely saw like strong influences of like, Mad Max, Surf Nazis Must Die, Hell Comes to Frogtown, and yeah, Terry Gilliam too. Actually, and I feel like in some ways it's a precursor to Escape from L.A.,
A little bit.
America being under this theocratic rule.
But we didn't get one of those sweet surfing scenes in this one.
Unfortunately, it seems like, because unfortunately they seem to be living in a desert here.
Sand. They could get some of them sandworms from Dune.
Yeah,
and then they could really like go at it.
And not for nothing too, but I did see the jackass dudes ride boogie boards on the beach once. I think they did it for Wild Boys, but it worked.
Yep, and also like so Zach Galligan. Pretty much the extent of my fandom for him is the Gremlins movies and Waxwork. So it was interesting. So that's not, so that plus John Rice Davies and June Chadwick. It's like all these actors who starred in beloved '80s movies.
Yeah, it almost feels familiar, even though you haven't seen it.
Exactly.
Oh shit!
Yeah, like the
sand dunes. Sand dunes is what they rode the boogie boards on. If you can ride them on the beach, that's what they're designed to do.
Yeah, it was very
like the guy Wayne Crawford. He looked so familiar, but I don't think I'd really seen him in anything.
I saw him in a film called Jake's Speed not too long ago. As Speed, and that's an '80s film that came to Arrow not too long ago. So I didn't recognize him until I'd seen this movie. So, and I guess he's in a sci-fi movie called Snake Island that I know of. So,
sounds like fun.
I am kind of sad that I didn't get to see this. I mean, from all of y'all who know Dustin, didn't you think this would be down his alley?
I know. He loved Tremors. That was his pick, and it's like I'd be curious to see if he had the same vibe. But
my first impression, I have seen this movie before. It would be really weird if I just like pick something at random that I'd never seen for this. Before trying to say it's not. It does have a personal connection to me, of course, and also that rare factor, which I think none of y'all have seen it, is a good indicator on that level.
Well, you talked about rare and hard and little known and off the beaten path. Both of these movies that you picked tonight have no trivia on IMDb, and it's in no Wikipedia page.
Actually, okay, if you go to Zach Galligan's Wikipedia page, if you go to Zach Galligan's Wikipedia page, it's not even listed in his filmography.
Oh wow!
How did this movie get lost to time?
Right.
So yes, this one is one that there are a couple of films like this that came from my past. My father, believe it or not, he was a huge Reagan supporter back in the day. Which for people who actually know my father personally, that would be very hard to believe.
It kind of is.
Yeah, him and my mother both, they voted for Reagan twice. And it was late in that regime, I think it was late in the second term, that they kind of changed their political focus, because it was kind of like promises were reneged on and stuff like that as far as their concern was. This movie came towards that late time where his Vice President Bush Sr. was there, and he had been big into post-apocalyptic movies like Hardware, Mad Max,
Escape from New York.
Escape from New York, just a lot of these post-apocalyptic 70s and 80s films, and there were a lot of them at the time.
Honorable mention to A Boy and His Dog. That's a good one.
Yes, another one that he loved, Metal Storm.
OG Charlie Band shit right there.
Yeah, so these are things he always called it Jared Sen, which that was the subtitle to it, but that's why we could never find it at the time, because he always. So he showed he loved this film because it was like it exemplified the things that he really didn't like, which was the whole idea, the whole religious theocracy thought, the talk that there had been. I remember that there was an interview on a news channel where they had been talking about they would see what they could do about trying to improve our moral standing in the United States by the concept of mandatory church services, which, thank goodness, nothing like that ever got off the ground. But I know they were talking about
praise
that
the Lord.
well, they were talking about that the administration at the time, but they couldn't get it off the ground. There's a slight thing called freedom of religion that kind of stands in the way of that. So these types of things and the MTV generation kind of stoked that fear of this whole clamp down. And this has always been the case over time. And he loved this film and showed it to me over and over. I liked it the first time because there was some boobies in it toward the end.
There is some tasteful boobage, yeah. I noticed as well.
But I also found the film very fun and entertaining. Yeah. And we had it on a VHS tape because it was rare that would ever come on any type of cable. We taped it off HBO at the time. And then eventually, not too many years ago, I had found out that, yes, there were a couple of there is official VHS release here in the States. And there were a couple of official DVD releases, but not in the States. The UK had one. There was a German one, but it was in German. And there was an Australian one. The Australian one's the easiest one to get.
This would be fun to watch in German.
Yes, it would be. So I really like it. I like the biting tone of it, and there is a lot of it that I can look at and say these are good things to warn us all about letting anybody, I don't care what side you're on. Nobody should have all the power all the time. No. And this is what happens when you let one side have all the power all the time. So this one holds a special piece to me, both historically and to current times. It reminds me. So that's my take on it. Well, let's go ahead and get started. A spoiler warning for those of you who may not have seen this movie, which probably there are many, and so we're going to be talking in depth. So if you do find a copy of this, is there one on YouTube?
Yes, there is.
So so you can try and catch us on YouTube for free, which is good. Or you can go on eBay if you got a region free play. I saw actually the UK version, which has a cooler cover than the Australian version. But it's much more expensive. But it ranges from $30 to like $60 because of shipping alone is expensive.
The Australian one looks like they were leaning hard into that Mad Max vibe, probably for marketing.
Well, it's Australia, the home of Mad Max.
Exactly.
But we'll go ahead and launch into the plot as we meet the characters along the way. The first character we get to meet, though, is Big Boy, as he shows his debut in the in the very first scene where they're digging up as an archaeological dig and find it.
Yeah.
But they also find, I believe, the license plate at the same time. Which comes into play later. What are y'all thought about that? Just that basic setup at the beginning, the archaeology scene.
It was interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty rad, man. I mean, and Big Boy is like an iconic image in his own right. So it was like, I guess I kind of took it as almost maybe doing like the Planet of the Apes Statue of Liberty thing.
Yeah. I kind of had a Planet of the Apes vibe too. Yeah,
they were doing the 2001: A Space Odyssey music.
Yeah, that as well.
Yes,
very much so. Even with the what is it? Also Sprach was Zarathustra or whatever it's called. They played that again as well. Yeah. I was amused by the whole idea of Big Boy as the monolith.
And it's not as super surprising that you got I'm guessing this is in the California area. It looks like that Southern California area. I mean, it's not surprising.
It was actually filmed in South Africa.
Oh, I was thinking about where it's supposed to take place. I mean,
right?
Yes, South Africa is a good place for desert stuff.
Yeah, Namibia apparently. And South Africa. Yeah.
But yeah, I could see California or South Cal being that desert-like almost in a future time, just because of the droughts and stuff that they've had to deal with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a semi-desert climb anyway, and then all the water they've been using for fracking. Shoot, almonds. The almonds that they produce there suck tons.
Or see my rant on our other video regarding Vegas. Because seriously, the Colorado River is supposed to also provide water to California. It ain't cutting it anymore. It ain't.
They gotta start desalinizing that water.
There's no water to desalinize.
I'm talking on the coast.
Yeah, well, that too. But what's up?
But then we're kind of thrown into the prison, where we get to meet our first characters, Joe and Artie Gage. Artie's come in to pick up his brother, who is having a very interesting end of jail.
Boy.
Exit counseling, as they said.
Yes.
What did y'all think of the exit counseling scene?
Oh, it's glorious, man. I mean, that lady with her pulling her, I knew it was going to get badass as soon as I started putting on the gloves when she's pulling her fingernails through the tips of the surgical gloves. Like, this has got to be awesome. Then he's putting the tins, like the prison, plates in for like a cup and shit. And oh man, it was just so good. They went
what was it she said? Is it a tin cup? Are you happy?
Oh yeah.
Is that a tin cup? Are you happy to see me? Something like that.
Yeah, I loved it when he was hitting her with. He did like the lock in a sock thing where he put a bunch of heavy shit in a sock, and he was wailing on her with it. It was a knockdown, drag out brawl. It was a hell of a way to get ushered out of jail.
I love how she's walking by and she just hits the guy and he's like, "Thank you, sister."
Yeah. And then of course, he ends up kind of winning the match by plugging himself as he's riding her shoulders, if I remember correctly. He plugs himself into a light socket.
And she's grabbing that cup.
She's grounded. And it's like, yep. Yeah, it was kind of interesting.
What did you think of that fight, Dave? I think, I don't know why, but when I saw that first part, I thought Dave would like this part.
I love any female in latex, with her tits rising above. It's just, I don't know. No, I think that's kind of the reason why I like that one sci-fi film that I told you that I like called Crime Zone, because there is a chick in latex. Kind of why I like Barbed Wire,
Why not?
I still haven't seen that. One day.
So how many of y'all think that we should start doing that now as a way of exit counseling for prisoners?
I mean, depending on the dudes, they might want to reoffend just to get another taste.
Right.
That is true.
It'd be a small segment of it, so it could be effective.
Right.
You just have to fight a boss fight with some like fucking crazy punker nun before you leave prison.
Right.
So, what do y'all think of Joe Gage, the spunky brother?
He was interesting. He is a dick. But like I said, he had a little bit of that Burnt Gummer vibe, which was kind of fun, but he also is very much a lookout for number one kind of guy. And there were times where he was very amusing and times where I was like, just shut up and go with it.
What about Artie, his brother?
He was almost the opposite. He was like that moment in The Gamers. You look trustworthy. Why don't we?
Yeah, he was kind of insanely, what do you call it, optimistic and bright-eyed type dude.
Yes, he's like Candide, the best of all possible worlds.
So we talk about parallels to movies. One I saw a parallel to Big Trouble in Little China with Joe Gage. I don't know why. Kind of gave me that main character vibe. Maybe
he has a bit of like that NES protagonist brought to life type thing going on,
But then you gotta get a Blues Brothers vibe of him leaving the thing and him looking like, "Where's the car?" And he pulls up in that moped. Whereas,
You gotta push me for about 50 yards.
My Buick.
That was supposed to be like a direct reference, wasn't it?
It's a piece of shit. I want my fucking Buick.
It was kind of a piece of shit. It really was.
It sounded like they had quite the racket going beforehand because they were smuggling people into Mexico.
Yeah,
exactly.
On that vitamin C on the streets.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People always pay to go where the grass is greener.
Yes.
Just imagine if it was Vitamin C, the artist that they were trying to panhandle on the streets.
Oh, geez. No, I love that whole part about smuggling people into Mexico. Like that and that intro boss fight when he's getting out of prison are really the things that give it sort of some of that trauma vibe, I guess, right out of the gate. That sort of goofball parody type humor, I guess.
And we are, and we're truly introduced fully on. They don't pull back on their punches with this world being kind of, if you're not rich or high up in the government, you're kind of screwed in this world. It sounds like to be high up in the government, you got to be rich. Well, okay, not that much different from today, but it's they had this. They go to this place where Artie has these jobs for them as bellhops, working for this strange artist Gerard de la Fanule, which I thought is an interesting name. What did y'all think of Gerard?
He was interesting. Kind of creepy.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like a cartoon character.
Yeah, a little bit. Actually, he, more than almost any other character, I think he and his crowd of party guests, whatever, they probably more than any other part of the film gave that Terry Gilliam vibe. Like I could definitely see where Dane might have gotten the Brazil reference from that sequence. That was
that Playboy.
Yes, they have that. What'd they pay for that? It was like $100,000 or $120,000 or something.
It's like, no. What's funny is that somebody paid over $100,000 for old magazine, and we're here busting our asses for like $1.99 or like that.
Dude, I love it when it comes back around later too, and he actually sees one, and he's like, "These are totally worth it."
It's a 9-inch. What's a 9-inch fur-lined putter cover? I don't know what it is, but
I've got an idea.
Right? Yes, I'm sure he has an idea.
Much like a lot of those other protagonists, though, he is the source of most. Joe Gage is most of the comedic sources as well. He's the butt of a lot of the jokes.
Yeah, a lot of it.
He's the selfish guy, but he usually gets punished for being selfish most of the time.
Right.
And they end up also living in this place, which turns out to be this kind of living art project.
Yeah.
Where it's just a bunch of poor people in this kind of shelter section with a guy basically doing the constant.
It's like a soup kitchen.
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah. Only with a box seating for the owner and his guests. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, you've got the guy who's there with holding the book and looking all official all the time, and he kind of curates the TV programming.
He's like the number one preacher, except you know what? Right. He kind of looks like Joe Gage.
A little bit.
Well, he definitely has the mustache.
Yeah.
So we are, of course, then introduced by the TV to a character that is not directly linked, but it loves us all.
Yes.
The blessed Reverend Jimmy Joe II.
Indeed. Played by Rod McCary.
I wonder if Jimmy Joe is kind of a reference to Jim Jones.
Could be.
I felt like it might have been.
I feel like he was a cross between Jim Jones, Jerry Falwell, and Ronald Reagan. I felt like
probably true, at least at the time. But okay, here's what I'm going to say. Okay, so I was watching this. You got this guy who's slimy, feels like he could be a televangelist, but that his real calling is probably as a used car salesman. This is a guy who clearly would not have the balls to actually take over the government, but is the kind of guy who easily would be slip right into place as the next leader, which is what happened. I think his father was like the first blessed preacher, if I understand correctly.
The first elected president of the United States.
Yes.
Elected.
Kind of reminded me of Joel Osteen or Onstein.
Austin. Yeah, I could see that. When I saw this, I had a nagging thought in the back of my brain, and the next morning it hit me with a ton of bricks. This guy, I hate to say this, and I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want to speak these things into reality.
Yeah.
But this guy could be what we're looking at in 30 years because this guy, to me, screams Ted Cruz.
Oh, God.
Screams Ted Cruz. Give him a scruffy beard and 50 extra pounds, he's Ted Cruz.
Send him to Cancun.
And then, he is, and it's not just like the whole smarmy, everything is good because it's good for me, so that makes it good for all of you. But it's like there's the whole angle that he does every time he does a TV appearance. He's like hawking some piece of merchandise that the taxpayers paid for through, quote, donations.
Yeah.
But now he's trying to sell them back at exorbitant prices.
Well, basically telling you it's expensive, but can you really live without it?
Yes, he's got that gold-plated coin, and my face is on both sides, so you can't lose.
There's a lot of different little jabs they put in there, where he's talking about his addendum to the Bible. And, and of course his illustrated history of the
it's put together by a team of experts, personally overseen by myself.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's where most of their best, I think, subtle humor and parody in the movie.
Oh yeah,
with that dude.
The political satire with that. The political satire with that dude was spot on.
It was.
And scary.
Mm-hmm. If you do not honor your father or your mother, they will punish you.
Yes. Yes. Oh.
Yeah, he was that element of the movie that made it very clear that some of this is supposed to be kind of scary.
Yeah.
Like this isn't all going to be just yucks. Some of it's like sort of a unfortunate projection of what could be.
Right.
And because he was sinister, there wasn't too much about him that was funny in the same way as the rest of the movie was.
And I do feel like there is that fear, and it's a fear that's always present. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, there was a fear in the McCarthyism era. There was a fear in there were fears of a lot of things that were coming. It's reflected in the movies at the time, and there was that fear of the of this group or any group gaining so much power.
Yeah.
That they would end up taking over. And it seems like every time that a group takes up power, the haves always control the have-nots. And it's even funnier because it's even funnier when you see one where it's a bunch of socialists doing it, because they're the ones who always claim to be for the poor, but then they're always up in the big government positions, and it's still they're the haves and you've got the have-nots. It's like the poor are screwed no matter who gets all the power at the end of the day. That's why you don't give anybody all the power. I think it's a lesson.
Yeah, and they really were blatant about it too. There's like that one part at the party where Gerard is talking to his guests. And I believe, I think it was Artie who walked by at that point, and he was talking about the common man. And he like throws his arm around him and says, like, and you're happy, right? And he was clearly talking to him as a common man.
Yes.
And it was just like, and it reminded me of a comment that Brother Dave Gardner said a long time ago, where he is talking about the Lord must have loved the common man because he made so many of them. Now, that might sound good in print, but you call someone common to their face and see how quick they punch you right in the nose. But in this society, obviously, you're able to do it. It's, yeah.
So, of course, they get fired from their job because Joe can't keep his sexual harassment vibes to himself.
It starts out as an ass pinch, but when they throw him out, if you notice, he's like zipping up his pants and shit. Like, what the hell happened there, man?
Yeah, she probably was fine with that first part. She's kind of slumming it,
Oh. But they end up, of course, you get the second hint about the Kropfelders, because you get the license plate at the very beginning, but then you get like the first hint where the president, or Blessed Reverend, talks about the Kropfelders and how they're these sinister people and terrorists, which that's the. Freedom fighters or terrorists, how the whole thing goes. And they start doing a raid and looking for these people in their midst. And Artie, being the white knight he is trying to protect whoever it is. He's usually just out there trying to look out for others. He's the I said the ultimate opposite to his brother, and ends up getting into some trouble. Of course, his brother won't let Artie, go out. Ends up getting involved, and they all end up getting chased by the police. And this ends up turning out to be the two female characters, Mia Hart and Blaze Hart. So what do y'all think of our sisters here?
They're pretty cool, I suppose. I mean, they bring in the whole let's go treasure hunting aspect of the movie. I thought that was pretty cool. Wasn't stoked on them deceiving our dudes there when it came to making some dough, but what can you do? I thought they were all right, and the younger of the two, I think, was pretty hot.
She was.
I feel like they were Oh, good.
Well, I was going to say it's probably appropriate. We were talking before about like casting and whatever. Elizabeth Kiefer, I guess is how you say that. Kiefer. I'm not super familiar with her other work, but she has a long history of soap opera roles, including 208 episodes of Guiding Light, and they do tend to cast rather good-looking people on those shows. So that seems appropriate.
I look at them as, and I wanted to see if y'all agree with me on this. Okay. I considered them as kind of reflections of the brothers in a way. Both of them very similar in one way. They're neither one of them. I think that Mila Hart is a little bit more innocent than Joe, and Blaze is less innocent than Artie. But I think that they're very similar in those cases. Like Mila is more about herself and about her own agenda, and Blaze is more about just doing general like what's right.
Blaze is very guarded at first in a way Artie would not have been, but when she comes and kind of warms up to him, she really warms up to him.
Oh yeah. No, I hadn't thought about that when I was watching it, but now that you say it, that does make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Well, I thought they were definitely good foils for the brothers, definitely in a lot of ways.
But they go on their adventure in that rather kick-ass armored car that they have.
It is pretty sweet.
And they end up starting out their journey in order to find the archaeological dig, as they prep in town, which kind of has a pretty cool vibe, almost like what you would look at as a Mexican town, I don't know why, but it has that. I'm guessing South Cal, which has a lot of similar vibes to it. And of course, they meet up with, what is his name? The guy who farts a lot.
Uncle Bob.
That was White.
Him and his chimp.
That was Whitefish, wasn't it?
Whitefish, yes, Whitefish.
Whitefish
who eats tons of beans, so he's farting all the time with his chimp.
I thought it was his chimpanzee that was farting.
Yeah, I thought it was the chimp that was farting.
I thought they both were.
The chimp got snot-nosed, and then you would hear him farting in the background.
When you're just hanging out eating beans with a chimp, there's going to be farts coming from all angles, you know. So at a certain point, you can just bank on that people won't know which is which, so they don't know who to blame, and that's a sweet setup. I see what he's doing there.
I used to change your diapers. Wouldn't mind changing them.
Yeah. There's a part too as they're leaving, and he does like that kind of creepy fucking uncle thing again, where you could tell that chick, I think Blaze, the younger one, like that actress actually cracked up a little bit as they're going out, like, and his facial expression changes, like he sees that he got her to actually laugh. You know, it's a pretty cool moment. He was legitimately funny. I imagine it had to have been funny being on set with that dude.
You know, when he first was introduced, before I got a good look at him, from the way he was talking and whatever, for half a second, I thought it was Harry Dean Stanton again. And I was like, oh, wow, he's in everything. But no, it wasn't. But I mean, he had a lot of us. He had that vibe to him, I think.
And he does give them the coordinates as to where to go.
Right.
But of course, they are being chased by somebody else. They don't know they're being chased yet, and he doesn't know that he's looking for them yet. But they're looking for the same thing, which is our really our main villain, Don Waldo, who is at Uncle Bob's archaeological site. And has converted it into a torture place, a torture room there. And he is doing some fun torture sessions over there with his lieutenant. So what did y'all think of Don Waldo?
Oh man, all that torture stuff was like gnarly. That went harder than I thought it was going to, given the tone of the rest of the movie.
I feel like he was trying to do Steve Martin's version of Little Shop of Horrors in here.
A little bit.
You even learn about that he was married once, but she was a bit too much of a wild one for him. And more than the monthly prescription.
Yeah, that killed me, man. Like he's talking about it like it's a bad thing, you know.
The archaeological aspect of it reminded me of a book that I had read when I was a kid. It was called Mysteries of the Motel, or Motel of Mysteries. or of the mysteries, and basically it was a futuristic, like, dystopian archaeological dig where they dug up a motel from like the 80s, and he found a toilet seat, I guess, in one of the rooms, and thought it was a ceremonial thing that people used to put on their.
Well, that is part
Where
of
you're
the
going with
throne.
that.
Yes.
Some type
It
of
was-
primitive anti-personnel device.
It was
Yes.
it was weird that this archaeological dig just reminded me of that book. That's all. I mean, it was like, okay, they're finding like this soldier, and they found Gumby, and it's like
Mhm.
it reminded me of some of the things that dude found in the motel, and you know, the big boy in the very beginning, which also has a something to do later on. So
I do like the reference Mo just mentioned. That was great.
Oh man, it was.
Some
Wow.
sort of primitive anti-personnel. I love
So they do end up having a bit of a run-in with the police on this chase of the motorcycles and so on, but they take them out, and they end up getting to the dig site, and they do eventually find the radio outpost and the body of Kropfeld himself.
Mhm.
Which was a part of it. The actual Radio Free America, I think it was.
Mhm.
Was that the
Indeed.
right? Was that what they called it? Was it Radio Free America?
Yes,
I
it
believe
was.
so.
So he was still wearing all of his stuff when he died. You could see he was all like DJing, even up to his death.
Hmm.
And what were your thoughts on the first sign of Kropfeld? Were you able to figure out, since this was y'all's first watch, were you able to figure out that there was something more to this, as far as more to what the sisters were looking at, other than treasure hunting?
Honestly, no, I didn't pick up on
Me
it.
neither.
Mhm.
Well, to be honest, Joe Gage was kind of clumsy. So if it wasn't for his clumsiness and falling on his back
Right.
to go through some of these archaeological findings, they wouldn't have found the shit to begin with.
Now, I admit, you could see how the girls were using them, especially on the second part of it, where they're just sitting there like under umbrellas sipping drinks. And
Yeah.
the other two are just digging with
Yeah.
those.
And then,
Yeah,
I think Mila leaned over to her sisters like, "Aren't you glad we brought them along?" It's like,
just a little bit more, and then we can have a break. We.
yeah.
Yeah, that was solid stuff.
I actually understand their complaining at that point, because I agree with that. But yes, as you said, Joe kinds of falls into it as they fall into his bunker. That's to where he lives. And
Meanwhile, 66 yards away,
666 yards.
660. Yeah.
They end up. They find the anti-personnel device.
Yes.
which at first they think it's like some kind of a bomb or a grenade.
Put it in a bucket of water or something.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
firework or something.
Exactly.
Hey, that's a pretty impressive one. The fact that it was still working after all those years.
Yeah, some good batteries in there.
Yeah. Yeah. What was? Yeah. Yeah. That was fun times.
That they made them well before the end of the world.
No, they probably just, she chose Energizer, is what I think went on. Just keep going and going,
They chose wisely.
Yeah, there's kind of a Handmaid's Tale vibe in a lot of this as well, but kind of a Handmaid's Tale, more of a modern take, not so unlike our TV show of it, but I think that's part of that repressed culture.
Well, and they a spoiler alert for this one, but they never actually found the TV evangelist along their way, did they?
Well, they never actually took out the Blessed Reverend, if that's what you mean.
No.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, they put a little bit of they deflated his balloon a little bit, and made it easier for him to be taken down.
For sure. I mean, and that's kind of where it's all revealed there, is that, like, you know, they're more stoked about finding this radio station and getting this shit to be able to get it out to people than they are.
They reveal that. They reveal that, and of course, you also see them catching whitefish, and of course, the biggest lines there. What was it? It's like, "What about my rights? Fuck your rights. Praise the Lord," because because they're all these holy troops, and they have to always say, "Praise the Lord." Like, yes, sir, praise the Lord, sir. You know, these things. And the subtle touch is like almost all the music they have to listen to is religious music. It's like
onward, Christian soldiers. As they're trying to mow down that one dude that escaped with the glasses.
Yeah, they ended up trying to like these desert cannibals and so on wanted to tried to capture them also by pretending to be sick, and they ended up turning the tables on them. But they also end up finding a videotape, which is what they were looking for. You could tell right then and there they were looking for something, and because she was tapping the wall immediately, knowing there was something hidden. And I love how they're like, VHS. Nobody uses that anymore. Why couldn't they have used beta?
Yeah, that was true.
This is how we knew. That was the turning point. When beta became the leading media, physical media, that was what caused the change. We're just lucky that VHS won out over beta.
It's surprising too, man. Those beta tapes are small and cute. So I like them. You know, they're pleasing to the eye.
They actually have pretty good visual fidelity too.
I've heard.
Yeah, the beta tapes were supposed to be like the DVD of the Laserdisc, so it was like it's like VHS went out over the other. So
I think mainly because of cheaper manufacturing too.
Yeah, I think it was the cheaper manufacturing. But I think I actually cut that piece where you got to see Kropfel's speech there, and because I actually considered it probably one of the most serious moments in the film, because it does speak, and I think that speaks to everybody. I think it doesn't really matter where your basic political philosophy is. Unless your basic political philosophy is we need to be in a theocracy where the poor are owned by the rich, in which case this is the perfect world. But it's but the idea of them saying,
actually, then I believe the Blessed Reverend made that claim at one point.
Yes.
That it was.
Well, that
he did. He said, "Why?"
Distributed into the hands of those.
Well, no. He said something like, "Why would you be a rebel? Why would you rebel against a perfect society?"
Yeah,
you know, and yeah.
But that speech that he gives, basically, where he's talking about these people, they want to ban these things. They want to make it like, what was it? Talking about like, I'm nuts for you by the Squirrels or something.
Yeah.
And
those song titles were great.
And those type of things. And again, just so I can say I'm not always picking on the right for this. I mean, it was Tipper Gore that was leading the major like censorship movement of the 90s.
80s.
80. Well, though it was very prevalent during the Clinton years, so I would say 90s and 80s. The 80s also was very prevalent on the right side as well. But there was a lot of censorship trying to go on at those times. Shoot, we had an entire congressional hearing about how insidious Night Trap was, and how we need to ban video games like that. Night Trap, if you've played Night Trap, you know there's nothing insidious about that at all.
It didn't make you want to become a cyborg space vampire? I know, that was pretty.
I mean, maybe the fact that it got made was insidious, but but still, so a lot of that is there. But the idea of saying, where was the, just so you know that there was something here before the music died, before the lights went out. That was a very strong.
It was actually kind of, and one of those moments that kind of made you think, like, man, what if if everything does get to that point, hopefully something like that out there.
Well, that's that worry, the idea of like, should we ban different types of speech, and that's something that's on both sides. People wanting to get rid of anything that's anti this candidate or pro this candidate or personage or stuff like that. So it's just I think that's really one of the basic things. I think that was really what the writers wanted to throw in. It's like, just in case we didn't hit you over the head hard enough with our point. We're just going to straight out say it. I mean, authoritarian is not the way to go.
It's easy enough to happen too, man. I mean, anybody gets too addicted to the idea that they can ban or erase things, it can tend to spread, like wildfire.
Well, I mean, look at the recent canceling movement, and that's unfortunately being led by the left this time, where they're talking about, the idea is like, we need to get rid of all these old things. We need to erase it. Erase anything that offends people, or the right saying we need to erase anything in the history books that talks about slavery because talk of slavery makes us feel offended because our ancestors owned slaves. That's stupid too. These are things we've got to be careful about. These types of things. We say we want to erase anything.
The way Aunt Jemima looks, these things. I mean, Betty Crocker, not necessarily Crocker, but you know what I mean.
Well, and actually, we've got from what I understand, tomorrow is supposed to be the day where we're going to see a prime example of one political faction attempting to erase all those who are unwilling to commit pledge fidelity to a man rather than an ideal, which, well, that's a very strong step towards this sort of political establishment.
Oh, yeah. You should never put like one person above all things.
Yes.
And because then you become a cult.
Yes.
So,
which is good when you're trying to when you've got a little movie like this and you want to build a cult around the movie, but it's not so good when you're looking for your national leadership.
Exactly.
Only reason to join a cult is for free Nikes. Okay, get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
So they end up having it out, and of course, Joe, when he finds out about all this stuff, he's slightly miffed, but only slightly, and runs out, and Mila goes after him, and they both get captured.
Of course.
Now, I really like that tank, the bad guy's tank, but kind of leaves you with those, like, you've got all of like the soldiers and the police officers all hooked up to these IVs, like they're almost robot-like. I don't know if you noticed that. It was kind of creepy.
I like the whole design of those guys and their voices and stuff. It was just so awesome, like B-movie shit, It reminded me of a lot of those post-apocalyptic movies where just dudes are wearing visors and stuff. I love it.
Oh, you could tell like the influence on it. I mean, of course, it is late 80s, 89, I believe. So, but you can see that 80s post-apocalyptic. They're like way into it.
Mm-hmm.
I keep mentioning Wetware. I need to watch that again. I need to find a copy. Just so many good. I have a love for these 80s, 70s, and 80s post-apocalyptic films. They're just fun.
Absolutely.
They really are, and I think it's a cool subgenre of movies because regardless of budget, really, if you just get creative with it, you can make a pretty convincing, wasteland world wherever you happen to have access to, or, you go and do it nice and cheap in South Africa like they did here. It's just fun, man. I mean, they make it pretty convincing. It doesn't feel like they just, slightly altered stuff to expect us to believe it's some weird future. It's all dirty and gross and fun.
And then we learn that Milo is actually the wife that Don Waldo that he had talked about earlier in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that was quite funny. Of course, Joe at least appears on the surface to sell them out. And I do love how it's like, well, why can't we just torture them? Why don't we just torture or kill you or her until we get what we want? It's like, you ain't getting nothing for it. Listen, you can do what you want, but you ain't getting nothing for free. I've been screwed over with all this shit. So they make a deal, and they even shortchange them on the cash they offered them.
Yeah.
And 30,000. There's only 30,000 here.
Is that a problem? Nope.
Nope. I'll take it.
He knew what he was doing with that, and even was like it's like when they go over to drop down into the hideout, he's like, oh well, I would, but my back kind of got thrown out when I.
In this dystopian world, I'm not sure money really is.
Money is everything. Money is everything here. It
works.
It is. It's. I mean, they define that throughout the entirety of it. The wealthy there, how they're spending it, the fact that they have to, that they're working for pittance per night.
$4 a night.
Oh yeah.
Jeez.
They're even willing to give out payment plans.
Right.
That's the idea. Is that the idea behind this is that if you are born wealthy in this world, you don't really have anything to worry about, and those people not born wealthy are born to serve the wealthy,
right?
Or
to be living art for them.
Yeah, well, that's the idea: serving the wealthy, and this time is art. And this is a mindset that many unfortunately seem to have, and mistake for it. This is the best way to combat socialism, which it's not. It's basically worse in many ways. It's almost feudalism. But that's the thing. That's why money is everything to him. He's like, yeah, I can finally live here. I can collect these things. The Playboys.
I love that when he has that realization, like, I'm gonna collect these. It's gonna be
But
life goals.
They had bombed the place. They had had set bombs to the place. So he manages to set them up to where he gets those bombs detonated on them, as and is able to escape, so that they can take that holy tank and roll into town. And they manage to save the girl and create a hell of a lot of havoc on their way out. Unintended havoc. What did y'all think of the breakout scene?
I thought that was actually entertaining, especially since I was fully reminded of the tank in Raiders of the Lost Ark with the tank. For some reason, the original tank that they had, except that one was more like something between a hayride and a duck, So to me, I didn't know what the hell that tank was.
I love the fact that it was a speaking tank too. It was constantly killing like religious verses as it goes.
Well, and it didn't seem like those guns had any effect on that tank. So it was kind of cool that that it did kind of have like a target system on the inside of the thing for its budget. You know,
it reminded me of that Atari. What the hell is it? It's like Battlezone or whatever, where you command the tanks, and it's like polygonal wannabe 3D graphics.
What was that post-apocalyptic one? Was it a Mad Max one where they had that kind of battle tank thing that was... I don't know what it was. It was a post-apocalyptic one where they had like this giant battle tank thing souped up to be like this badass post-apocalyptic wasteland battle cruiser, and I couldn't think of it.
I feel like that's... If you're talking about a movie, I feel like that's Fury Road.
That could be like a Fury Road device. It's a little bit more sluggish than a Fury Road device, but still. And God, the control scheme is complex as heck.
It really was.
Forward in the name of Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, just all the action in this movie was really handled well, given the budget and everything they were working with, obviously. It was good times. The squib effects on everything, I got to mention those again, because they were just so good. Blowing chunks out of those dudes.
Well, and the slow motion deaths, I did kind of like that, or the death that the bullet would go into them, and it would make them leap backwards or upwards or whatnot.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's to me overacting of death, because I'm not sure if those bullets would.
Fun as hell though, man. I love
like
it when there's like intense squibbery and then the dudes just fly all over the place. That's always a good time.
So they end up taking over the like TV station, and because they know like another one of those broadcasts are there, that's kind of forced broadcasts where everybody has to watch a mandatory viewing.
Right.
And she's sitting there, it's like, do you want to make this easy or hard? And at first, she's like, easy, very good. Hard. No, you had it right the first time.
Yeah, that was great. I don't know why anytime there's like a takeover of a TV station anymore, it just always reminds me of the end of The Howling. Even though there's like tons of movies have done it. That's the one that always comes to mind for some reason. Maybe it's my favorite subconsciously, I guess.
And I do love, one of the things I thought was hilarious, also a little line-wise, is when he's trying to sell that coin where Gerard is saying, oh, wait, give me a pen. You can tell I didn't care much.
And when Gerard realizes everything has gone amok, he's like, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I must find my way to an underground tunnel that I have somewhere nearby. Bye-bye.
Yeah, he had that sort of mad scientist exit, which I thought was funny at the end. Because they play the video for everybody, and then people are realizing that the Blessed Reverend is lying to us. I don't know if it would be that easy to do something like that these days. I don't think that you could just play a tape. I mean, you couldn't just, with the current like fervor behind people. I don't think you could have gone like 2 years ago and say played a video of the leader screwing a duck on live TV and saying how much he hates all the people who voted for him and get that reaction or something.
Nah.
And most of them are like, fake news. Move on.
You get it from a few, but most of them, they would say fake news.
But it is kind of cool. They're all like, screw this, and they all decide to go at it and
it's awesome.
Turn the tables, and then there's a secret tunnel I must be getting to.
Yes.
Well, and of course you get on the screen something about before the video comes on. sorry for interrupting this bullshit.
Let's see. I think I've got it like sitting here. Yeah. Let's see here. We're sorry to interrupt your bullshit, but here we're gonna bring you a message from Radio Free America.
Right.
And it's quite funny. I do have actually I ended up uploading just the clip of him. Of course, it was automatically copyright claimed, so I guess they are actually still caring about this movie a little bit. Because there was no music or anything. They must have actually known what they were copyright claiming.
Oh yeah, it's probably in some type of rights library that someone owns, you know.
But it's still worth having up there. I mean, no one's taken it down, so it's kind of just like, okay, I'll just leave it up there because I just felt like that was a strong piece. But yeah, so then of course they all decide, okay, well, now we're going to be walking to New Jerusalem, and we got a long way to go.
I like to think just because of the trauma vibes through some of it and the New Jerusalem, New Jersey, you know, there could be something going on there. Like they're headed in that general direction.
So what did y'all think of the special effects work in this film?
Oh, I thought it was great. I mean, I mentioned the squibs and stuff for sure. Can't go without mentioning the sweet knobheads, the mutant guys. They looked pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, Smiley.
Right.
Yes, that stuff was all good.
Yeah, I think for the most part it was solid for what they were doing.
Good set design, and I did like the settings that they used. I thought that they did a good job picking that.
Right.
Indeed.
Oh yeah.
Right. Well, like you said, that vehicle that the girls had, that definitely falls under production design, I think. It was pretty cool.
Now, there were 3 types of music I noticed that were in this film. A lot of Christian music.
Yeah.
There was rock and roll. But then there was there was one signature that was more original, kind of like, I guess, their take on that futuristic music. So there was a little bit of that, and that was pretty much the type of music they were playing in the background as they would move along when they weren't trying to use one of the other two. What did y'all think of the music in this?
I thought it was pretty good, actually. I mean, I thought it was a good mix of all those things, and it added to the movie. It was noticeable enough, you know. Nothing spectacular that I would be like, that's the jam right there. I'm gonna put that on my fucking iPod or something. But it's, you know, it's some good shit on there for sure.
Yeah, the music was also Sprech Zarathustra by Richard Strauss. What a friend we have in Jesus by Tennessee Ernie Ford. It's My Life by Roger Atkins and Carl D'Erico. Make a Stand for Love, performed by Julian Laxton, and Rock and Roll Is Here to Stay, performed by Shana Na.
You gotta also love that weird thing they were playing in that rich the rich art person's place. That like that thing where like, give me your break. Like I was like, this is the kind of stuff that they listen to, and they're like, we're tired of Christian music. Let's just find something that's unoffensive to people, but is still reflective of our time.
Oh, like that squirrel song that we were talking about.
I'm nuts about you. That's the
word.
I'm nuts about you by the Squirrels, which there is no such song in real life.
It's too bad.
That is a missed opportunity. There's got to okay. Yeah. If there is a band, the Squirrels, out there, you guys need to record that song.
Yes. Or heck, if there isn't, then maybe the Squirrel Nut Zippers could do it.
I mean, it's such an obvious idea that if you're a band called the Squirrels and you haven't done it, you should probably just hang it up. You failed as a squirrel band. Okay. It's just...
Well, there's a band that I listened to called Circus of the Dead Squirrels.
There you go. They sound like the band to do it.
Actually, come to think of it, there is a really great song by the Squirrel Nut Zippers.
It's
That
called
if I remember, what's that?
There is a song called Hell by the Squirrel Nut Zippers that I really like.
Well, that was the one I was going to say, and I'm just double checking the title here, but I want to say the title is Fat Cat's Getting Fatter, or Fat Cat Keeps Getting Fatter. And that does seem like an appropriate one for this one.
Well, so I guess we're at favorites. So Forrest, what would be your favorite scene in this film?
Oh God, favorite scene. This is hard. Yeah, this is a tough one. This is
You want me to come back to you?
Yes, please.
How about you, Jake? Favorite scene?
I would say the most effectively creepy scenes are the ones with the Blessed Reverend Jimmy Joe II. And I kind of liked, especially the one where he was talking about that gold-plated coin. I really did get a kick out of him hawking his wares during those addresses. It was
great.
But as far as favorites, I do think the discussion of the primitive anti-personnel device probably was.
Yes.
That was pretty good.
All right. So Mo, what's your favorite?
Oh, I got to go with that fucking that primitive anti-personnel device, man. That's just comedy gold right there. Again, it was one of those moments where I wasn't quite expecting that out of the movie. Right. I didn't think that they were gonna go. I'd put it right there with the torture scene in terms of like surprising stuff where I was like, well, they really went there. But obviously the primitive anti-personnel device is more fun for the whole family or the whole crowd, so to speak.
Yes, for kids.
Yeah, it was just good stuff. I guess secondary to that, just any of the action sequences, specifically though, would definitely be that what was it? Outgoing counseling, or the fight with the punker nun at the beginning of the movie is another highlight for me.
What about you, Dave?
I would say the hunker nun in the very beginning. I like that part. And I would go also with the primitive anti-personnel device as well.
It's just such a moment, dude.
It is. I mean. They play it all straight-faced, and they're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. That's that scene from this movie that we could go 10 years from now, and all of us have, with the exception of Brandon, maybe have forgotten the title of this movie, but we'll remember that scene,
See, I'm glad that I've gotten something that will stick with you to that.
Oh, forever, for sure.
Well, that and that scene of Gabe jumping in there naked.
Also, forever. Maybe not in the same way.
So Forrest, were you able to figure out the scene?
Oh God, probably when the president. Oh God. This is probably this is probably one of the more darker moments, actually, when the president says he's got a hard-on for America.
Oh, yes, I've got a hard-on for America.
That was, I wanted to soundbite that somehow and use it for something.
And actually, he was talking, and he was talking about election time, and of course that they were talking about how the voting was kept with the privileged and the wealthy, which in a way they're trying to do that now. So that's kind of a pretty current thing. My favorite scene is I have two, oddly enough, that I have on there. As far as serious scenes, just having that scene with Kropfeld where he's just basically discussing that and gives you a better insight as to what's going on with the world. So I don't know what it is about that scene, but it just makes me laugh when I see the tank going through and they're trying to figure it out. So it's having all these like religious verses that they're talking about. They're blowing everybody up. It's like forward in the name of Jesus, the blessed Reverend love you. I love you. Boom.
I'm sorry. Okay. One that I totally forgot somehow. You gotta say the fuck your rights, praise the Lord. That was definitely a good moment too.
That was a true showstopper right there. So with that, we'll go ahead and I guess go into outros. And why don't we start with we'll start with Forrest. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Right, Forrest Bennett, independent film producer based in Long Island, New York, and also a member. Also a member. Actually, no, I think I'll keep it at that for now.
All right. How about you, Kotobuki, Jake?
All right. Well, I'm Jake. I'm a movie fan and collector, media fan and collector here in Central Virginia, co-host on Septum Sin versus the World. And, like to spend some time hanging out with these fine folks here. And in fact, I believe next week we'll get to hang out and watch some of my fun stuff. So I'm just going to bring up my camera here for a moment and show off these lovelies. We've got the Mexican gem, another political satire called La Ley de Herodes, or Herod's Law. And then a politically tinged but fantasy tearjerker of the anime realm, which have this gorgeous set, Maquia When the Promised Flower Blooms.
Mother's Day.
It is. It is a really good Mother's Day film. Maybe not Herod's Law, but definitely Maquia, definitely. And so I'm very much looking forward to seeing what y'all have to say on those, and looking forward to those of you out there and the viewers joining us next week for those.
All right, Mo, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am Mo. I do videos for my channel, Drunken Master Studios. Been on kind of a little break for the last couple of weeks because I was hitting it pretty hard for a while, but I've got a lot of stuff stacked up for the next, month or so. So lots of stuff going to be coming out. Going to be working on lots more full moon content. So if you enjoy those old Charlie Band movies from the 80s and the 90s, be sure to pop over and check out what we got going on.
Oh, I can't wait to see more of that. So I'm Septum Sen, the Septum Sen versus the World. We love our physical media here. We do pickup videos, new release videos. Now we've had to refocus because Blu-ray.com went down. And now we are talking about what's releasing on the day of our release video. So a lot less errors being made about stuff being pushed, which is something. And we even had our recent video where we were both together in the same room for the first time. We had to refigure out how to do cameras and lighting and all that.
Right.
But we figured out that we also work much faster that way, because even though we had to start half of our video over again, we still filmed it quicker than we would have normally. So with that being said, though, we also do a couple other things. I do a few Let's Plays. Off and again, I'm kind of stalled on it because I really want to do the next Let's Play as I go through my Steam collection alphabetically with my wife. So I have to wait for that, but it'll be worth it. But I am going to do a video at the end of the week where I show off my entire Switch collection. So I look forward to that. So I'm going to surrender my time now because my time is over. I'll be back at the end of June to torture you again with some more fun stuff, but not, one of them is political, but not as political as this. So we'll see you all at the end of next month for that. But Jake will be in control. But before Dave will have to hand the reins over to Jake next time, but I'm going to hand those reins back to Dave.
Surrender, Dorothy. Anyways, my name is David Streggy. I am one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for coming and joining and listening to our discussion on this fine and feathered film. I love that we get to talk about movies of all levels on here, and hopefully we'll have some other films that might be up your alley in store, and let us know down in the comments what you thought on this film if you've seen it. But on the other hand, I moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where you will also find our other discussion that we had earlier in the night. But there is one thing that I do want y'all to check out. Me and my buddy Boris, we went and tackled the Tin Man miniseries from the Sci-Fi Channel this week.
Yeah.
Since we are in the land of Oz, at least the last couple of weeks. And definitely check that discussion out. And look out for some video pickup videos that I'll probably have coming out soon, and some more reviews that I'll finally get off my mind because I haven't really been reviewing as much as I used to, and I need to get back into that.
Oh yeah.
So, definitely check some of those out once those come out, and I'm looking forward to your choices next week, Jake. So let us tell these tell our audience, fuck you, praise the Lord.
Yes, fuck, you're
Praise
right.
the Lord.
Praise the Lord.